Mr. Prendergast appeared to me in the bathroom.
Ew.
No, his spirit. He says the witch's curse is real, and I have to go up to the old graveyard and stop it before the sun sets tonight.
So, you want to come play a bit later?
Didn't you hear what I just said?
Yeah, but I thought my idea was the less likely to get us eaten.
Hey guys, welcome back to Spooky Tuesday, a weekly podcast where we're breaking down all of our favorite slashers, thrillers, monster movies, and black comedies on the new scariest day of the week. I'm Sydney Thompson.
I'm Monica Hyde.
And I'm Chelsea Duff.
And this week, we've got our last
Sorry, it still sounds so scratchy. I don't know what's going on. I just tried to power through, but Monica caught me.
Called out.
I tried to keep it together. But
I saw her being like, I'm not saying anything. But then
I'm like, I'll say
Sydney.
something.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's going on over there?
So sorry, no clue.
This is a fun way to end Pride Week. Just,
Dying a little, yeah.
We die a little death at the end of June because we have to go back to straight months, and nobody likes straight months.
Awful. No one likes those.
Nobody likes straight months. We go immediately into American Pride. No, thank you.
Oh, it's rough.
It's rough out here.
Deeply depressing. But it's not over yet.
It's not over yet. We have one movie that I know made at least 2 out of the 3 of us cry. Chelsea, did you cry?
Oh, I cried. Yeah, I cried.
Okay, good. Okay, all
Yeah,
three of us
I don't know that I had like a full tear, but
I was sobbing
teared
at one point. I was sobbing at one point.
Got one of those like, I think.
Just a little weepy.
And this movie is an undercover, like, sleeper hit queer piece of media, and that's ParaNorman. And if you haven't seen it, it is about a misunderstood boy who takes on ghost zombies and grown-ups to save his town from a centuries-old curse.
Am I gonna
What a
cry
fun
just from
description.
that? Am I gonna cry from the description? I got a little emotional.
Stand to grown-ups.
Stand up to the grown-ups.
To be a kid.
It is, though. Nobody understands.
Yeah, it is hard. It is hard to be a kid. It is hard.
Like, in every timeline, it's just like so hard. And this movie is, I know both of y'all were like, how is this movie gay and all this kind of stuff? And we'll just break out the twist thing. This movie was the first animated movie to like feature a canonically queer, or at least a canonically gay character. But you don't find out. There's like a lot of discourse. Like, you don't find out until like the very end, and it's like a throwaway sentence, and like people were mad that he was gay, and then people were like mad that he was like gay, but like in the last minute, like not gay enough. And it's just like, I think he's the perfect amount of gay.
I think they couldn't have delivered that apparently controversial of a reveal until after they had been like, hey, don't you agree that it's bad to be terrible to people who are different than you?
Yeah. No, they needed to do that. They needed to come in and be like, wow, you agree with Norman, right? He's a wonderful boy. Don't you think it's bad? All this bad stuff happens. And then be like, here's an example where you're being challenged in just the same way. Do you pass the test? Did you learn anything in the last hour 30?
And here's the thing. So many people did not learn a
They
thing.
didn't learn. Yeah. Woof.
Like, I was reading old, because this movie came out in 2012, and so I was like reading like old articles and like Reddit posts that went back like 10 years, and people were talking about how like parents like left, and it was the end of the movie, so like of course they did, but they went and like tried to get like their tickets refunded because they were like,
Sorry,
I can't
bitch, you
believe
stayed the whole time. So
Yeah.
It's just like, what? This movie is so beautiful and so like the animation, because this is the same, I don't know how you pronounce this.
Laika.
Laika. But it's the second movie that they ever made. I think the first one was Coraline.
Mm-hmm.
And then this one, and they've done like a bunch of other ones. And this is like a passion project for somebody's kid. Like
Yeah, it's someone who's up there in Nike, right? So these movies don't do that well, but they're being bankrolled by Nike. Thank you, Nike.
Thank you, Nike. Like
Yay,
an
right.
ally.
ally, Nike. Thank you. Let me see that gay swoosh.
Right. But like this movie, I hadn't watched it in a while, but I knew it was like one of my favorite movies ever. And this movie is so beautiful and so just like, because it's stop motion claymation,
Mm-hmm.
which is just so impressive to begin with. Like that has to take so much work.
Oh, it is
Okay,
so
let me give you-
fun to watch. It's so fun because you can see like the little hairs on their head, like moving from each little shot because they like get slightly. It's perfectly imperfect. That's why it's so beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, they used the newest up-to-date technology at the time to make this. I read this article about it that I'll link in the show notes, but there's also a post-credit scene. I don't know if you guys saw that, where it like shows a little of the stop motion process. But they made 178 puppets for this movie. The zombies, they used mechanical animation. I don't really know what that means, but that's fine. But they used 3D printing to make all kinds of different replacement heads, and they used a 3D printer process that allowed them to like incorporate the painting process into it. So they were able to do even more expressions than they had on Coraline, for example, because
Wow.
when you have to hand paint everything, obviously you're limited in your working abilities, and also you have to be so much more precise, because if like the blush is a little different from frame to frame, that can like pop up and be a little weird.
Interesting. So it's
Yeah.
not really claymation, or is it? Is it kind of?
It's both stop motion claymation and CGI to sort of like bring things together.
Okay.
So it's a
'Cause
mix of technologies.
There
Like-
was a part of it where I was like, "How? This has got to be CGI." Like it
the
has
witch
to be.
stuff.
Yeah, the witch shit.
Or
I was
like
I-
how
that's
all the
not
dead people
possible.
have like the glow halo around them a little bit.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't
And
even think about
obviously,
that
like,
part, but yeah.
They have to remove any stands or wires that are like holding their puppets up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But apparently, for reference, Nightmare Before Christmas, Jack Skellington was able to make like 800 or so different expressions. On Coraline, young Coraline was able to make about 200,000 expressions.
Oh,
and
that's a lot of expressions.
ParaNorman, well, Norman on this movie, he was able to make express himself, quote, a staggering 1.5 million ways.
Damn, Norman!
Yeah, they had
that.
they had 30,000 different faces for him. Or maybe that's for faces in general, I'm not sure, but like the way that they could combine them to make different expressions, yeah, it adds
How
up.
interesting.
So,
That's so cool.
yeah,
It was stunning.
but they
That was
had
really
like
stunning.
a little library of it basically for the animators, so that they could be like, oh, do I need a smile? Do I need a frown? Oh, I go to this section and then I can like see what's there and available to me.
That's so fucking cool.
You know, yeah,
Wow.
really interesting stuff.
I
so it
geek out
says-
for these kind of movies. It's just like this is the
Me
highest
too.
form of art, in my honest opinion.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's so. I love animated movies to begin with, right? Like I like cartoon shows, I like adult animation, I like kid animation. I watch Scooby-Doo constantly. Did y'all catch the Scooby-Doo reference in this movie?
Yeah, baby.
I feel like I clocked one at the time, but I don't remember it now.
Was the cop.
Yeah.
Who said
Meddling
these
kids.
meddling
Yeah.
kids.
And
Yeah.
she says like jinkies and stuff like that. It's just like so good.
Oh, I
There's
missed
actually
the Jinkies.
according to IMDb, there's like so many references to like other horror movies in ParaNorman.
Yes.
You get more obvious ones. Norman's ringtone is the Halloween theme song. theme
Is
song.
it the Friday the 13th theme song?
It's the Halloween
No.
one.
The subtitles
was
were wrong then.
that was a combo pack. It's the Friday the 13th. I'm sorry.
His
it's-
mask, yeah.
His mask is
Yeah.
Friday the 13th, but the sheets and the music are from Halloween.
Halloween, yeah.
Well, I
And you
am
have-
telling the Stars subtitles people that they got it wrong. Because
Okay,
I believe
let 'em
them, even
know.
though I should have known better.
Okay, so the Breakfast Club is referenced in this because you have Norman, Neil, Courtney, Mitch, and Alvin are all based off the 5 main characters of the Breakfast Club.
Oh. I think I can.
Oh,
see
he's
it.
Allison?
Yeah,
I love
like,
it.
and then
That's
Mitch-
so right. I love that for him.
so good. Let's see. So you have Norman, he's the 11-year-old main guy, and his whole thing is he can talk and see dead people, and he's
And
considered
animals.
he's considered a freak, and his dad specifically is like very anti, like
His dad, woof.
His
there
dad
is
mean. He has a
his-
special gift and he doesn't appreciate it.
When I was watching the first beginning half of it, when the parents are arguing, there's a lot of little like things that if
Oh my god, I wrote down
you
that whole
learn
thing. Yeah.
so like you learn so much stuff. One, the dad says, "I'm liberal, but this ain't some limp wrist hippie like nonsense or something like that."
He says,
And I was
do you want me to
like,
read the full quote?
yeah.
He says, "I'm nothing if I'm not liberal, but that limp-wristed hippie garbage needs to be nipped in the bud. This behavior may be okay with your side of the family, but I'm not putting up with it anymore. Not me." And she goes, "Oh no, not this again," the mom. And then he goes, "This isn't the West Coast, Sandra. People talk. They do." And she says, "He's just sensitive, Perry." And he goes, "Oh, please. Sensitive is writing poetry and being lousy at team sports, not this. I won't have him turn out like that uncle of yours. If that crazy old tramp has been around here, putting ideas in Norman's head." And she goes, "No one's had anything to do with Uncle Prendergast in years." Blah, 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 blah. But woof.
And then
Limp-wristed is really on the nose.
Yeah,
so-
seriously.
for me, I know this movie is like if you're different or anything, but because they do have a character who is canonically queer, you can just read this whole movie
Yeah.
as LGBTQIA plus youth, and how they
Totally.
are witch hunted, demonized, made to feel isolated, all this.
And
it's
also LGBTQ adults. Like the whole
Yes.
uncle thing is very clear. Like, we don't want that kind in our family. We won't allow him around the kids because then he's gonna make the kids just like him.
him.
Yeah.
like he's gonna
Totally.
rub off on the kids. And it was just like watching it in that kind of lens, which it was, and especially
It was
now
devastating. Yeah.
in the climate, like the social climate that we're
Yeah,
in
the
right
current
now,
climate.
where you have adults basically just witch hunting these
Mhm.
kids and making such a big deal about things.
And witch
He's
hunting
villainizing
anybody
these
who has
trans
anything to do
youth.
with children also,
Yes.
as being like, don't
Yes.
you dare let them know that anybody is gay in the world.
Right? Like, what are you doing for our children? And it's like, okay, but what are you doing to your own children? Because they're seeing you actively have mob mentality, be hateful, be spiteful, just like, suicide is incredibly high among queer youths. And it's
Yeah.
because adults, like,
Yeah,
I got-
adults are the biggest bullies because when you're a kid, you believe what the fuck they're saying to you because that's what you're taught. You're like, oh, adults know what's going on. Like the other kids around you, that obviously affects you too. But like to have that come from someone from a place of authority like that is all the more devastating.
I got bullied by adults when I was like 16, 17, like mob bullied by adults, where if it was my peers, I was like, I know how to handle this. I can like do this. But like when you have adults bullying you, you have like no power, you have no say, you have no authority or anything like that, because they are,
Yeah.
But like,
They're in charge, scare quotes.
yes, in society, they are above you. So you feel so like, what kind of weak adult do you have to be to bully literal children? I'm talking to
Yeah.
all of you psycho
No.
adults who bully children. Like, I will
I've
call
been
you
there.
out. Like,
I've been there, and it's just like, really, wow. You must feel so cool and
Cool.
big. What, talking shit to a child?
Wild.
Good job. You're so cool. Jesus
It's also
Christ.
just like, I don't know. I think this movie is a really good allegory. In part because they're like, Norman stopped talking to ghosts, and he, I guess, could stop talking to ghosts, but that doesn't mean he's gonna stop being able to and stop seeing them everywhere. Like, there's nothing
Exactly.
he can do about it other than try to accept himself and hope that eventually other people will accept him too. But he can't change the way that he is, and telling him not to behave a certain way, yeah, maybe you can control his behavior, but you can't change who and what and how he is.
Yeah, and he can't
So, like, you're just
control
making him be ashamed.
miserable. And he's walking down the street, and the hippie ghost is saying, "What's up, dude?" Like, he's still gonna be hearing that inner voice, if you want to see it that way, to keep with the allegory. Yeah, I mean, when we started doing this movie for the pod, Sydney's right. I was like, is this gay enough to end Pride Month? I was like, especially after Nice Plus Heart, I was like, after the gayest movie we've ever done. Now we're gonna do this movie that's not that gay. But like, yeah, okay, on its face, it's not that gay, but it's such a beautiful
clear.
allegory.
Yeah.
He
It's
said
so clear.
limp-wristed, my
Right?
God.
Yeah.
And he was
I
like
was really
West
blown away.
Coast, like all this kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And here's the thing. I caught the mom. So we see Norman do all this kind of stuff, and they live in a little town in
Blythe Hollow.
Yeah, that's
Oh,
based
love
off
that name. I love the
Salem.
word Blythe.
That's a great name. I grew up with a girl named Blythe.
Oh,
Cute.
so
Yeah.
cool. That's awesome. Putting
but-
it on my baby name list.
Yeah, that's a great baby name for you, Monica, actually. Write that down.
I'm literally
It's a great
Googling what
baby
it
name
means
for
right
a
now.
baby who's going to grow up to become a grandma one day.
Oh, yes.
Oh, sorry. I looked up what
Uh-huh.
it meant, and it has two very disparate showing
does
a
it mean?
casual and cheerful indifference considered to be callous or improper. That's mean. But in a literary sense, it means happy or joyous. A blithe seaside comedy, not community. Excuse me. Anyway, that was informative for me. Continue. The town of Blythe, blah blah.
It's basically based off, the Salem witch hunt, Salem, Massachusetts, Puritans, all this kind of stuff. And so the school, and they've turned it into a very capitalistic town. So they have
Yeah,
witch
they've
merch
commodified it.
everywhere.
Oh my God,
and
yeah, the
all this kind of
commods.
stuff.
It was cool
And-
though.
I
It
know.
was cool.
I would love
I
to
love
live
how
in
there
a
was
town
a
like that. I would love to
I
live
was
in a
like-
witch town, actually.
I know. I was like, this is sick, and then I was like, oh, it's bad that they commodified her death, but like, it was bad. It was a cool statue. Anyway,
What are you going to do?
Very Scooby-Doo and the Witch's Ghost of them, if you ask me, which I still want to do on the pod.
Down.
But so the kids at I'm assuming 11th grade middle school, right?
Yeah.
He's got to be in like 6th grade.
Or 11-year-old middle school.
Yeah. Are doing the play of the witch hunts. And Norman has a premonition, and, all the parents are there watching, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, the dead are coming. The dead are coming. And everybody's like, who's this freak? Who's this freak? And he's back in the car with his parents, and his mom is just trying to be like, it's going to be okay. You're fine. And the dad is just having none of it. And Norman says, I think he's just afraid of me. And the mom goes, he's not afraid of you. He's afraid for you.
Yeah, I mean, I think
And,
that is like very on the nose and very real a lot of the time. It's not that people who don't understand their queer child hate their queer child. They love their child a lot of the time. but they can't envision what their life is
way.
going to be.
Yeah.
And they're like, it's
Totally.
not the life that I thought that I was like working hard to provide for you. And I don't understand why you don't want what I'm trying to give you. And it's just like, well, it's just not really how it works.
But I've
No,
had that
you can't deny
little
yourself.
excuse used on me before where they're like, it's not that like, you know, like this would just be a harder like blah, 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 blah. It's the same
Okay,
thing.
well, I'll figure it out because it sounds way harder to me to not figure it out.
To not figure it out.
Exactly.
That's
And
the
like
part
they don't
get.
understand that that's not an option to not be yourself. to
Let me just
suppress
hate
that part of
myself for the
yourself.
next 60 years, and that's also gonna go really well. Like,
Would you rather have people hate you or to hate yourself?
Wow.
That's kind of the choice that they're at making you make.
the problem
Mm.
to me, sorry to like stay on this beat, but what gets me
No,
really
important.
frustrated these days in political conversations about what is and isn't appropriate for children, especially when it comes to the media they consume, is like, okay, maybe we would have been having slightly different conversations a few decades ago when queer families were less frequently part of our communities. But even if you don't have any kids who know they're gay yet in kindergarten, you might still have a kid with two dads or two moms or a non-binary parent or a trans parent. Like, why are
Yeah.
we specifically coming to all those kids and being like, it is not appropriate for you to talk about your family? It's not appropriate for us to acknowledge in this classroom that people are different and people have families that look different. Like, we're supposed to just socially ostracize this child? Like, forget making sure that queer kids know that it's okay to be queer. Like, this child is here and this family is part of your school community. Like, are you trying to just run them out of town? Because that's really the only way that we can eliminate these discussions entirely from happening around children. Like, they're gonna happen. You're gonna have a kid who wants to go over to their friend's house and their friend is gonna have two dads or whatever. Like, you can't, it's too late. It's too late. You can't take it out of society.
You
can't
can't
insulate
control every
this.
single aspect of the world. You can't create this perfect little playground for your kid where there's no, like, that lives inside of a vacuum. If you put your
And
kid
also,
inside of a vacuum, they'll suffocate and die. Like, they need to be exposed to what's happening in the world.
Wow,
Not
suffocating and die.
everything.
Very timely, Monica.
people,
Mhm.
people understand that there are child-friendly and child-appropriate ways to talk about scary subjects, like when it comes to introducing the concept of hell in Sunday school and eternal damnation. They've certainly found ways that they think are appropriate to talk about that with a 5-year-old
Yeah.
to not terrify and traumatize them. I'm pretty sure we can find ways that are appropriate to talk to children about anything, even if you think that it is not an appropriate. Like, sex ed for kindergartners does not mean we tell them how anal sex works. It means we tell them about like it drives me so crazy. Why can't they conceptualize that like things can be made appropriate for a kindergartner?
Yeah, I don't understand. It's just like everything is extreme. Everything in all regards is like extremes these days. But they're like, do you think I'm gonna like turn to a kid and just be like, this is what death is and grandma's gonna be cremated? Do you know what that is? Like, no, we're not like going into little tiny detail about everything. People can learn about, I don't know, if you just, yeah, it's just
I
so,
don't
it's
know.
just so insane.
I was just with my cousin who I hadn't seen in like almost a decade because he actively avoids me. Dick.
Called out.
What a dick.
What a
He's
dick.
listening.
He probably has no idea
He's
that
probably
I have
not.
a podcast.
He's actively avoiding you. Yeah.
Because he avoids everything.
Well, you're putting the energy into the universe, and that's what counts.
But he was talking about, he was like, yeah, I remember being 5 and somebody died. And my mom just looks at me and he goes, there is nothing after, like, when you die, you're just dead. Like, it's fine. Like, there's nothing afterwards. And he was just like, it was something to think about, but he's like,
sorry about it.
he's like, okay, that's fine. Like, kids are kids. And
Kids are
here's the thing
kids.
too. You have to trust your children or any children to be able to critically think, which I know is hard for a lot of adults now because their parents didn't let them critically think as a child.
But they're capable.
They're capable. They're so capable. They are
capable.
capable of coming to things like on their own. They are
And also-
absolutely capable of like
Yeah.
handling
They don't
big
have-
topics. You just have to break it down to make it digestible for them.
There's just
They don't have a lot of the same preconceived notions that adults have also. So
Yes.
it's not as confusing for them a lot of the time as
And
it is
half
for
of-
adults.
And again, half of the time, the only reason adults make it like horrible for kids is because the adult is uncomfortable having that conversation. Like they are
Get
the ones
over
that are
it.
uncomfortable.
Being a parent is having a bajillion hard conversations, it sounds like. Like, I'm not a parent. I can't speak to that. But you bet here I am still out here giving my mom a hard time on the regular. I am 30 years old. She still has to do it. That's just part of the job.
My parents never gave me a sex talk, but when my parents got divorced, I set them each down individually and was like, things are different in the last 20 years. And I scared my dad so badly about HPV that he like called his doctor and was like, this is the thing. It was so funny.
That's
And his doctor
so
was like,
funny.
yeah,
have to get the
basically everybody
Gardasil.
has it.
Yeah.
But the doctor was like, yeah, everybody has that now. Like, it's fine.
Oh my God, you still have to get your. Well, actually, I don't know. I think it did recently get approved for adults, but probably not adults our parents' age. Actually, I have no idea. You guys should research that for yourself.
Don't listen to us. I mean, listen,
Don't
to
listen
us,
to
but not on
us.
that.
We spread misinformation probably all the time, but I feel like we go enough of the time. I don't know if this is true or not. So, like, you know,
Where it
Here's
matters,
what I've
we
heard.
say I'm not an
Research for
authority on
yourself.
this.
But also, you just heard it on the internet, so it now is true.
but now it is true. Yeah. So we are
Facts.
actually authorities on this
We are
now.
Facts.
That's the thing.
Facts.
You guys
Yeah, but
also
yeah.
have critical thinking skills, though. So
Yes,
it's so
use
it's
your
so lucky
brain.
you guys have that, and also
Yeah.
we have it
Yeah, like I wasn't expecting this movie to
to
bring
go
up.
so fucking hard.
Yeah, it went so fucking hard. And also, I was super sleepy when I first watched it. And like they were tumbling down in that van. They're going all around in the van, and I fell fully asleep. And I was like, no, we have to give this the time that it deserves. And thank God I did, because then I cried once I woke up in the morning and watched the
Yeah.
rest. I cried the whole rest of the time.
When you're falling asleep in the chase scene, you're like, okay, it's just
Yeah, I
time
was
for
like,
bed.
it can't happen right now. But yeah, I mean, also, I love that it can be. I don't know. This movie has everything. It's an allegory for the queer experience as a child and all of that what we've been just discussing, and then also it just so perfectly like is a horror kids thing. Like it
Mhm.
has so many horror little nuggets, but like done in a way where they make it silly and funny, so it's perfect for kids, which I really appreciate. It's a little eye opener for children into being horror fans, which is important. Maybe
It
don't
is.
show
No,
your
it's really
6-year-old
fun.
Halloween, but death show him ParaNorman.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really cute. It's really well done. It is funny and silly, and someone working on here loves the Pixar mom body shape, because there was a lot
Yes.
of that. There's a lot of like, that person has their butt up in the air, like jokes and stuff like that in this
Yeah.
movie. Lots of that going on, but I thought it was mostly very cute and charming. It was really cute and fun for kids. It had deeper meaning for adults to enjoy as well. But on the scary front, they did a lot of fun stuff while also making sure nothing like too scary happened. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I thought it was
Like-
a really interesting twist to get into the twist, if you will. That the zombies are not zombies as we know them, because they really set that up from like the opening shot of the movie. Norman is
yeah.
sitting there watching a scary movie with zombies eating brains, blah blah blah, and his grandma, the ghost of his grandma, is sitting behind him on the couch and is like, "What's happening now?" And he's like, "Well, the zombie's eating her head, grandma." And she's like, "That's not very nice. What's he doing that for?" And Norman is like, "Because he's a zombie. That's what they do." And so from the beginning, they're going like, zombies are bad. They eat people. They're scary. Look at all these zombie posters he has in his room. Like, they're really building this up. And then the zombies are scary. You know, they're trying to get you to get to Norman. But their motivations aren't what you think they are, and they're not really. They're like trying to rip you to pieces and do harm. Like, it's
Because
really
the
interesting the way they set
motivated.
it up.
Because these zombies are also misunderstood. And it goes
Yeah.
back to the mob like mentality. And it's just, and here's the thing, there's so many like funny antics. I love, so we do get to meet Uncle Pendergast, and we do find out like really cool connections. So the witch in the movie is Agatha Pendergast,
Prendergast.
however you pronounce it. I'm saying
There's an
Pendergast.
extra R in there in the beginning.
But so she, as a witch, we later learn, is being accused and she's killed because she can see dead people. And so,
It's like Norman.
but so they're related. Like that's his
Mhm.
like great cousin or something on his mom's side.
Yeah.
And
Runs in the family.
yeah, and you know, her uncle, so it's like Norman's great uncle, I'm assuming, who's voiced by John Goodman.
So good.
Yes, that's who it was. Oh, there's so many recognizable voices. Oh my God, Anna Kendrick was Courtney?
Yeah.
You couldn't tell?
No,
It took
I
me a
knew
minute
she
to catch
sounded
on, but then I was like,
familiar.
oh, that's Anna Kendrick.
I
And
don't-
Alvin
McLovin
is Christopher Mintz-Plasse. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
from McLovin.
I tagged McLovin immediately. I was like, that's McLovin. Come on.
The voice actor who plays Mitch, we will not be named because he sucks.
Boo.
Yeah.
But he is related
unfortunate.
to Ben Affleck, who, did y'all see for Father's Day, Jennifer
maybe
Lopez cropped like a nude photo of him?
Sure
and
looks
he
like a
looked really,
nude.
he looked really good. So I would
He
have been
looks
like, you know
fucking
what?
amazing.
I would have done that too.
He should have done like an over-the-shoulder butt
Like a
shot
little
to show off his
a little
back
booty
tattoo.
tooch. Oh no, I
Oh,
don't want
yeah.
to see
Phoenix tattoo. But
Jennifer
Jennifer
Lopez also does not want
love it.
anybody to know that back tattoo is Mitch.
Yeah, let's forget about it.
He
He's
did
getting
in
it
fact
lasered
rise
off.
from the ashes of his divorce like a phoenix to return to his previous Jennifer. Okay, you guys?
Fair.
But I love, like, it's very Scooby-Dooey, you know, they're all the
Mhm.
gangs back together. Neil, Norman's only friend,
His
I
bestie.
love Neil.
is so cute. And, you know, Norman's labeled a freak and Neil gets called fat. And so then they like come together and Neil doesn't care that he can see like dead people or ghosts. And he's just like, can you see my dog? My dog got run over by like an animal.
An animal rescue man.
Iconic
He's like, it's
and
tragic.
ironic is what I meant
Ironic.
to say.
Yeah.
And-
Iconic that dog. got run
Iconically ironic. Iconic
Uh,
that he was cut in half. Poor
Ugh,
guy.
fully in half. Yeah.
But so they're hanging out. We see his uncle, and there is a line that Neil says where he's like, I like, don't come near me. I've got hummus and it's spicy.
Mhm. He's
And-
so cute.
And but the uncle like jumps a little bit and he's telling Norman like he has to, you know, do this thing, and Norman's like, whatever. And then we cut to the uncle dying, and right before he's like, I've got a something with Norman and also his scary fat friend.
Yeah. Shouts to Neil, bitch. Neil's the best. Neil's a little hero. Neil said, I don't care that I'm an outcast. I have a nice attitude and I persevere. Unfortunately, bullying is human nature. I gotta just have some sunshine in my life. Can I be sunshine in your life too? Let's be besties. And his
Yeah.
older brother, Mitch, is like, don't you already feel like you're kind of an outcast? Don't you feel like it might make it worse to be around another outcast? And he goes, don't ruin this for me,
For
Mitch.
me. And when we first meet Mitch, he's, you know, under the car, and we see him and he is just a ginger Johnny Bravo with an arm tat. Like
Yes.
this man, his arms are bigger than his waist, right? Like And
Seriously.
He's got that
chest-
tiny little waist.
His head might be bigger than his waist.
but he is Mr. Jock, Mr. like cropped short hair, Mr. like him, like the himbo of my dreams, right?
Big
And-
himbo energy, yeah.
Oh, incredible himbo. And then we have Norman's sister Courtney, aka Anna Kendrick, and she is a cheerleader. She's like talking about like
Her
all
basket cost got 12,000 views on YouTube or whatever,
YouTube.
bitch. Call me when yours gets 12,000 views, bitch.
Then there's Alvin, the alternative school bully, who if Norman is in, 6th grade, Alvin has to be like he should be. He's in 7th grade, but like should be in 8th grade,
Or like maybe
Mhm.
even 9th grade.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And
But he's got gauges in his ears like a cool bad kid, and he like defaces the bathroom stall multiple times because he's doing his best to spell his name.
And he's really into breakdancing.
right, he loves hip hop breakdancing.
He's an artist. He's a creative.
But Uncle Pendergast dies, tells Norman, you have to read The Witch a story, blah, 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 blah. Go find the book. It's in my body. That's in my house. I'm already dead.
Go find my dead body and wrench it out of my
Hey, if you
dead
could
hands.
Grab my
Jesus.
stinky corpse and grab the
I
book
am
from
in
it.
full
That'd be
rigor
great.
mortis.
But it's really funny. We get Norman, or one of my literal favorite lines is that's when we get the Halloween, the Jason references, all this kind of stuff. And Neil's like, you want to go hang out? And Norman what does he say? Oh no, I have to like go say, I gotta go stop this witch's curse or something. And Neil's like, okay, so do you want to hang out later?
I have to do this before sunset. Okay, so maybe after that.
And I'm just
I
like,
love-
it's so pure.
I love spooky things for children. I'm still working through the last 3 series of unfortunate events books. And it's got the same energy. It's so
yeah.
good.
Yeah.
I also like
Yeah.
adult scary things. We do a whole podcast, don't forget.
Did
but
you know
I'm a
that? Do
little
you guys know
kid.
that Monica likes adult scary things?
I
I
have no
read
idea,
really scary
actually.
things, but I actually haven't read anything legitimately scary in a while. I need a break.
Mm.
This movie, like when we actually see the zombies and they're like running around
Mhm.
and arms are flying and bodies are still working, and Mitch like runs over one of them because Courtney's realized that Norman snuck out, and she goes over to Neil's house, and so her, Neil, and Mitch all use Neil's car, and they're like looking for everybody.
Neil's got
Neil's
wheels.
car.
Neil's got
Mitch's car.
wheels.
And they find Norman and Alvin. They're like running around. They're like, ah. And then he punts the head of the zombie, and he's like, oh my god, did you see that? It went like 100 yards.
He's an
I just-
athlete.
I just love Neil's whole attitude the whole time. Like when they make it into the library or the Hall of Records and they're trying to figure out where the witch is buried. And everyone's like, this fucking sucks. Like that we have to read all this shit. And Neil like reads a book that's about like asbestos or something that
Mhm.
has nothing to do with anything.
And he's like,
And
26
he's like-
pages.
He's like, I've got this. And I just read this whole book. And so I'm actually incredibly hopeful and feeling very accomplished. Great attitude. Not
Yeah.
helpful, but great attitude. Good for
Little
him.
cutie, little cutie. Okay, I know Sydney had seen this before, so you might have to harken your memory back to days long ago. But when did you start to like catch on to the twist? Because I didn't fully guess everything, but as soon as he was like, "What? This just sounds like a bedtime story," I did start to be like, "Oh, is he just like putting the zombies back to sleep? Like, is that just what he's doing?" And I started to explore that idea a little, but I didn't fully catch on to everything. I don't know that I predicted the Aggie reveal later on. I think that was a surprise.
I
I predicted nothing. I was half asleep.
was like, I remember watching it and I saw this in movie theaters because I
Mhm.
loved it. Like, I was like, I have to go see this. It looks awesome because I love claymation. Anything, sign me up. And I was shocked when we find out because we're seeing all of the witch stuff and statues, and it looks like a big, scary witch. And turns out Agatha Pembergrass or
Prendergast.
Prendergast is an 11-year-old little scared girl who just wants her mom and likes. She was like, my mom used to read me stories, and they always had happy endings, and it was just. And Norman, because he's the only one who can like talk to dead people, communicate with them, he's the one that has to now read these stories for her so she doesn't do what she's doing in the town. And I just thought it was just so, the zombies were so sweet. Turns out like
they've had 300 years to think about their mistakes. They've come around.
Well, you know, they were like, we sucked because like we were mean and we were scared. We didn't understand. You know, this was something that was different and we shouldn't have done this. And you have to, like, basically saying like, you have to fix our mistake.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting the way that they put the movie together because they reveal that essentially what happened is there was this 11-year-old girl, Aggie, that was accused of being a witch because she could talk to ghosts. And so these 7 townspeople killed her. And in her like final moments, she cursed them essentially to rise from the grave every year on her birthday, the anniversary of her death.
The anniversary of her death.
The anniversary of her death. And so every year somebody has to go and tell her a bedtime story to make sure she stays asleep and doesn't wake up and wake the zombies with her. But it's really interesting because they're obviously not normal zombies. Their curse is like a karmic punishment that they have to be the monsters and they have to be the ones who are like chased and have townspeople coming after them and trying to kill them and run them out of town. And to be punishment. The other. Yeah, it's so interesting because it's not that they're cursed to be zombies and come back and eat people's brains. It's that they are cursed to have to relive what they did to her, essentially. And so it makes sense that 300 years later, they're like, oopsie, we definitely see now that that was bad. And actually, I really don't like being treated this way because I'm not trying to hurt anybody, and I also can't even communicate to anyone that I'm not trying to hurt them other than Norman, who's the only person who can understand them. They just sound like rah, 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 like zombie monsters to everybody else.
They're being attacked by people who are just like them.
Yeah,
and so like,
well, and
it's well done because they're chasing Norman, and so you think at first they are scary zombies, but they just recognize that like he's the person who can help them, and they're trying to explain because poor Uncle Prendergast, while we love Neil and his spicy hummus, he did interrupt that part of the explanation, then Uncle Prendergast died almost immediately
afterward. Poor guy was just holding on.
Very funny though. The way he like came out and then went back in and was like, phew, almost got me. I'm good. And then died again.
Immediately died.
Yeah.
But we also, there's kind of like a message of the past. Like if you hide your past and you don't know what happens in your past, you are doomed to repeat it because the angry mob are now going after, you know, Norman and the zombies and all this kind of stuff the exact same way that these zombies went after like little Aggie.
Yeah, they're going after Norman. They're calling him a necromancer because they think he like brought the witch back instead of not being able to stop her in time. But they're also accidentally gonna burn down this town hall with Mitch and Courtney and Neil and Alvin and Norman inside. Like they're gonna fully torch these kids. But it's really interesting because in the play scene earlier on when they're setting up some of not the actual lore, but like what has become the town lore over the years, you do have that conversation between what's her name, the girl who's here for 5 seconds but seems great, Salma, where she says to the teacher, "Why is the witch always a hideous old crone with a pointy hat and a broomstick? I don't believe it's historically accurate, Miss Hensher." And the teacher says, "It's not supposed to be. It's supposed to sell postcards and keychains," which is just like classic. That's exactly what we were talking about in the beginning with like the commodification of it all. Like they have no interest in learning from their history. They have interest in being like, how can we make this work for us and never have to question ourselves? By upholding, even in this modern day age in which we now know the Salem witch trials were bullshit, of being like, no, she really was like a super scary witch, you guys. Like she was. And you can see, because if you look at that billboard, that witch on it,
Look how
she's
big
scary.
her chin is.
So, and you know, it's just really interesting. And the reveal of Aggie, that she's just a little girl, I was like, like, she's just little. She's just little.
She's so little.
I love the scene when our main cast of kids, a ragtag bunch, all come out to like stand up to Norman, and they're like, what are you doing? Like, look at yourself, look at your choices, like you're being fucked up, like you're adults, grow up, like start acting like it, like we're children, grow up.
Courtney's finally getting on board.
Yeah.
She was like, only I'm allowed to call my brother a freak, not you.
Which is true. That's how it works being
That's how it works.
That's what I've heard with siblings.
But so then Norman's parents are all on board. They're going to take him to like the actual resting place of Agatha so he can work through this. And so thank
God they've got the zombie judge to give them directions now, because they didn't know where to go before.
But so it's Norman the zombie and Courtney, and you know, she's like, he's in my space, and the zombie's talking to Norman who's doing this, and the parents are like, I will pull this car over if all of you three like don't.
That was so funny. I love that part.
Funny. And there's just like the mom makes like weird quippy stuff, and the dad is just like, I do not understand you at all. And I'm like,
and it's like, guess what? You don't have to. You just have to get on board. It's okay that you don't understand, but you do need to support and love your child.
Yep. Well, he was talking about the mom. Like, he was actively talking like to his wife, being like, I do not understand you. Like, all like the weird stuff she was saying. And I was like, that's all that I want to be as a wife, where I'm just like, la, 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 la. And my person is just like, I love you, but I do not understand you.
Not a clue what was just said.
Like, no clue what is going on in that big, beautiful brain of yours.
Doesn't she say something, or was this from something else that I watched recently? Although I don't think I watched anything else today. But she said something like not believing in the afterlife is like astrology or something like that.
She's like, not believing in the paranormal is like not believing in astrology, and I'm just like,
that shit's real. So
yeah, that's me. I'm like, I'm gonna say that from now on because I believe in both.
But yeah, no, it's super interesting to watch the family get on board. Because Norman had to fully yell at Courtney and be like, I did not ask you to come here. I didn't ask you to help. If you hate it so much, leave. If you don't want to be here, that's fine. I didn't ask you to be here. I don't want to do this either. This is scary to me too, but someone's got to do it. It has to be me, apparently. So if you're not on board, fine, get out. But then when she sees how everybody else is like not just against Norman, but like fork and knife pitchfork against Norman, she's like, and then she steps up. But this movie is very much like the magical healing power of hand holding, which I personally love, because she steps up and she grabs his hand, and then they have that like hand holding chain, which is
and
beautiful.
then Alvin grabs her butt.
Yeah,
fucking
Alvin.
Like my hand, Alvin.
But also in the scene with Aggie when she's going full witch, it's like the handhold that does it too. The
sometimes
human
you
contact.
just need like another,
yeah, just something as human as that to break the fucking spell.
I'm here with you. I care. I'm holding on. I'm not letting go.
I understand what you're going through. I'm also going through this as well, you know, but times are different. So, you know, you did get a shittier stick, but you also
were
can't
burnt at the stake.
Yeah. But also like you can't, I love his, you know, hurt people. And so he's like, they hurt you. Are you going to just keep, you know, going on
hurting
and
everybody else.
yeah. And she eventually comes around.
Because
She's the best.
Because they help hands.
They hold hands.
This little cuzzy's holding hands.
This movie
Because she's
literally
being
Yes.
extra scary too. He's trying to talk to her and she's being like, shut up. And he's like, no, I'm gonna get through to you if it's the last thing I like. They're so cute and he is so brave, and it's just so sweet to see them like finally share that moment. And I think this movie kind of does that on a bunch of different levels, because they have the dad, he's not afraid of you, he's afraid for you, and that makes him do terrible things sometimes. And Norman says something similar to Aggie. I think we kind of see it a little bit with Alvin, that he's like a bully that can be redeemed. And we do see him seeming to really struggle with his spelling alone. So you can imagine that some of his behavior is very possibly like lashing out before he can be the target. You see Mitch say something really similar to Neil when he says like, don't be friends with the weird kid. That's gonna make things worse. And it's like, no, this is gonna be the only thing that makes things better, is to make friends with people and like have these moments of connection and community.
Definitely.
Usually I don't always get on board with the like, they hurt you, but you can't hurt people back, because it's like, well, yeah, like you shouldn't, but also like, yeah, there are like, look, come on.
I think you are allowed to have a long, extensive list of enemies in your notes app, but like you can't actively physically hurt these people.
You should not murder anybody. That said, if they murdered you and you are a witch, I think there's a little wiggle room for some spells.
Yeah.
Just maybe not 300 years worth forever on forever.
Here's the thing, you're allowed to haunt them, but
only
just
as
them.
long as it serves you.
Yeah.
They learned their lesson, and now everybody's getting hurt, and also it's making things a lot worse for Norman, if you haven't noticed.
And
And
Norman
he's just a
almost
little
had the
boy
same
like
thing.
you.
Yeah. You don't want to
You're
perpetuate
hurting
the cycle.
Not that you can hurt guilty people, because you shouldn't do that either. But you definitely shouldn't hurt innocent people.
I love the ending of this movie where we're back on the couch, we're back in the living room, and
Back watching zombie movies.
and Norman's dad, is being like, what are you doing? And he's like watching a scary movie, and he's like, is grandma here? And both Norman and grandma are like shocked that he's acknowledging it.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, like she's right next to you. And he goes, hi, Mom.
I cried.
I sobbed. Like that
cried.
got me. I was like,
yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, and it explains a lot of the beginning stuff too, where like obviously he is afraid for his child, that his child is different and can see ghosts, because I think a lot of parents would be like, I don't know what's happening here and if I should encourage it, but it's the like, it's his mom that just died also.
Yeah.
Like, he is like, I'm trying to move on, and when you say that grandma is still here saying things to me, you're freaking me out, and I don't know how to process this, and I don't know how to fit this in with my own grief that I'm trying to come to terms with, and I need you just to shut up, which is not a nice way to say it, but you know, you see more of the you see more of where it comes from.
Yeah. And also the way that it manifests for Norman is him walking down an empty street saying, hi, hey, what's up? Hi, hey, what's up? That was
He's
so
a popular guy.
first, and then they change the perspective and you can see the ghost finally, and you're like, oh, poor guy.
There's a lot of them.
He's like, he's petting the raccoon who got run over by a car, and the people are just looking at him like,
it was so interesting to see all the ghosts, though. It was so cool to see all the different ghosts and how they died, and like that. I mean, it was a little grim, but you've got like a skydiver impaled on a tree branch, and you've got like a little bird with a soda can thing around its neck, and you know, it is cool to see like Norman walking down the street. And man, he really can't get far. He tells everybody like, I'm running late for school. I gotta go. And people keep being like, you're not going to school today, Norman? It's way too late for you to be going to school today, Norman. And he's like, please, I'm trying to walk to school.
Let him live.
He's doing his best.
Yeah. Oh,
He's
such
just a
sweet
little
movie.
guy.
Love this
Such a
movie.
sweet movie. I'm glad we did it. It was very wholesome. Is it time for our segments?
Our segmentos.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I'm down
Yeah.
for segments.
We ask every time, especially during Pride Month, how could this movie be
Oh.
gayer?
We literally didn't even talk about the line where we find out that Mitch is gay.
Oh, yeah.
Well, should we talk
this
about it
is
now?
the perfect time for
Well,
it.
this is the perfect time. How could it be gayer? So Courtney is hitting on Mitch the entire time, like throughout the movie.
So lusty for
She's
him.
like, "Oh, help! Don't you want to help with this?" And blah. And he is just like so not. He's like dismissive and like, and you might chalk it up to him being himbo and all this kind of stuff. And
Just not into her.
but she asked like, so like, do you want to go like watch a movie sometime or something? And he just goes, oh yeah, my boyfriend, we'd love to do that. Like he loves rom-coms. Like you
Yeah.
two would get along so well.
He's like, sick, dude. Like, let's have plans. Like, you're gonna love my BF.
The way that Courtney reacts, where it would like she literally doesn't make a fuss of it, doesn't do anything. She just reacts kind of how you would if he would have said,
"Oh,
oh
you
yeah,
love
like
my
I've got a girlfriend.
Yeah.
And so
Like,
I think, and so like, I get the whole discourse of like, this is too gay. This is just a throwaway, blah, blah, blah. But also, like, what do you want him to do? That, like, his whole point was he's a person who is
He's just chilling.
gay. Like, he's not like,
Exactly.
I'm the gay,
He's
like,
not what
I'm
you
the gay
think
character.
gay is.
I'm
Yeah.
just this, but I'm also gay.
Yeah,
Exactly.
It's not Dumbledore style where they came out afterwards and said, "Oh yeah, Mitch was gay. You guys didn't get that. We thought it was pretty obvious." Like he says it explicitly. You can't remove it from the film. It's there.
And also too, like that's how it would probably happen in real life. I know a lot of gay men who, if you didn't know that they had a boyfriend, you'd be like, that is a straight man.
And also,
like that is a bro.
People you don't have to go around announcing themselves.
Not all gay men are twinks either. Like,
no, yeah,
that's
true.
So true. Some of them are just start listing off the other
gay jocks exist.
You have bears, you have otters, you have leather daddies.
Keep going.
You've got meatheads. You've got which is what Mitch would fall under. Like, you have a lot of gay men who like to wrestle with each other for some reason. I don't know.
We talked about it in the beginning, and like I understand why people would maybe be a little disappointed that there's a canonically queer character and we don't get more of what that looks like in their life or means to them, but it's not the point. Mitch is just being himself. First of all, he's not the main character. But second of all, I think it works so well, like we were saying before, to like set up this whole story as an allegory and then be like, and don't you agree that it is wrong to bully others, and don't you agree that people can't change who they are, and
just because
don't
they're
you agree
different, and
that we shouldn't villainize people who are not like us. Oh, by the way, Mitch is gay and he has a boyfriend, and then people go, like, come on.
It's a built-in test at the end to see if you learned the lesson good enough. and a lot of people didn't pass.
Just like, it is a full allegory. I mean, I read a article celebrating the 10-year anniversary where they're like, where would Norman be 10 years later? And like, I don't necessarily agree with their take. But Aggie in particular strikes me as like, I felt like she could be trans, because there's also a line in there where like she and Norman are talking and he's like, I'm the same as you, and she's like, you're a boy. And so I felt like that could be read in a certain way where she's being like, I'm not that, don't call me that. And I just it felt right to me for her, and also like the way that people point at a little queer kid and go, different, scary, bad. And I think that's often the most visible way for a child to be seen as queer to adults. But it's not just that the allegory exists and you can read that into the movie. It's that by including Mitch and having him say, I have a boyfriend, I'm gay, they're saying, and this was what we were trying to communicate to you with this movie. It's not just this is one possible reading. It's like this is explicitly the message of the film, which I thought was, I mean, obviously it can apply to a lot of different ways that people are different, or that people are othered, or that marginalized communities are marginalized. But I just thought it was really great. I thought it was beautiful.
It's really beautiful. Yeah, it's there's so many, though it's not like screaming gay at you the whole time, like the gay seal screaming gay at you the whole time, you know, like we've discussed. There's so many allegories here to what's going on today. And I mean, I would just love to have a sequel where it's just Mitch and his boyfriend, you know, but I wouldn't change a thing about this movie to make it gay. It's perfect. But I would like the you know how they do the like Disney shorts before the Disney movies? Maybe they can start doing that with Laika movies, and it's like a post credits, and it's just like a day in the life of Mitch and his boyfriend Paul, and like whatever. They just LARP around and watch a rom-com, and that's it. I would like that. Okay, we're done with how could it be gayer. We're moving on to where would Matthew Lillard fit into this film. And he so should have been in the voice cast.
He should have been the tall main zombie.
The judge.
Yeah.
Judge Hopkins.
Judge
Honorable
Maddie
Judge
Lilly.
Hopkins.
It would have been such a good like extra layer of like horror trivia in there too, you know, because they're obviously trying to do that. We've got Norman Bates, we've got the Friday the 13th thing, the Halloween thing, the Scooby-Doo thing that we talked about. They play a song that's in Dawn of the Dead, that from the elevator scene as well. I found a whole Reddit thread about it. They're really trying to do that. Why not stick the fucking landing and have Matthew Viller is what I just called him.
Matthew
Villard villain in the voice cast as a villain. It would be perfect.
I think
Missed
he'd be a great
opportunity?
addition. I
Yep.
think he would do wonderful.
Great zombie. He needs the opportunity to play a zombie. He hasn't done that yet. So this could have been the time. We'll see. Maybe they'll do a remake or a sequel.
Paranormal
and
2.
then-
To Matthew to Lillard.
Matthew to Lillard. There's no such thing as to Matthew or to Lillard. Okay.
He's playing
Take
twins.
that back. That brings us to our dumb bitch. And though they learn from their mistakes, both angry mobs, I guess, because they become like one character.
All the adults are
adults.
dumb
bitches.
Yeah. Yeah. You know,
Yeah.
the thing is also that like you can see them being dumb too, in the sense that like the modern day mob, when attacking the zombies, is like they're trying to eat us, and they're like literally at no point trying to do that. They just are making a lot of assumptions, which I probably also would when faced with zombies. You know, it's hard to be like, let's give these zombies a chance. But you know, it's they are being like actively proven wrong during these scenes. Like the zombies aren't even really fighting back. They're just trying to crawl away.
Yeah. They're just standing there getting their arms ripped off and getting shot in the tum-tums. Oof.
But yeah, the original mob also no good. So this 11-year-old can talk to ghosts. So what? Leave her alone. First of all, she's just chilling. And second of all, what if she was a prophet? I don't know.
What if she was a
Guess
prophet?
what?
You
You
ever think
know
about
who else
that?
can talk to ghosts? Our Lord and Savior Jesus
Savior.
Christ. So do you even think about that?
Wow, dude, you fucking turned their own Christianity on them.
Yeah.
Get 'em. They didn't see that coming.
That's
gotcha.
Whatever.
I liked it. Oh my god. Okay, are we ready for knives out of fives?
Yeah. Because let me tell you, this movie nominated for an Oscar. It was
Yes.
nominated
Good.
for
As
Best
it should
Animated
be.
Feature at the 2013 Oscars. It was also nominated for Outstanding Film at the 2013 GLAAD Media Awards. So
Hell yeah.
GLAAD at the time was like, this is gay enough for us. So that's great.
If it's
but to
gay
get into
enough
the
for
stats-
Spooky Tuesday Pride Month, it's gay
gay
enough
enough
for Glad.
Yeah. Okay, so on IMDb, this movie has a 7.0 out of 10. On Rotten Tomatoes, it has 89% fresh from critics and 72% fresh from audiences. So, not perfect scores. I don't know what they would be critiquing exactly. But still pretty good. Pretty good scores overall. Some real good critical acclaim.
Yeah. I mean, it's beautiful. They had 1 million faces or whatever the fuck you said. So
Yeah, 1.5 million
Gotta get a nominee
different
for that.
possible ways to express himself. But yeah, I mean, the technology here is really incredible. The storyline is like very fun and silly and scary in a age appropriate way, which everybody needs for children. And the allegory is really well done and beautiful. And they just have like a lot of funny little things also, like Neil being caught freeze framing the mom aerobics video, and like there's a line from the police officer at one point when she's like yelling at the mob and she's like, stop shooting into citizens, that's our job. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
They just like toss that one in there and then move on really quickly.
That was so funny.
It's so
But
funny.
they just have a lot of funny little quotes. Like they have a lot of that there's a moment where the ghost of Uncle Mr. Prendergast is talking to Norman in the bathroom, and that whole sequence is like really funny and well done. But he's like, swear that you'll do it, but he just says swear, and Norman is like, you mean like the F word? Like they're just doing they're just doing a lot of really fun, cute stuff. They built it so well, where the opening zombie movie like sets up like the audience expectation so that they can subvert it, but how the grandma in like one of her first lines is like, I think if everybody just talked it out, things could be different, which is like, turns out that is true. Yeah. That is what happens. And you know, I think it's a 5 knives out of 5 movie.
It's a 5 knives out of 5 movie. This movie is so good. It's so just visually beautiful to look at. I love like the small details, the overall message, like what it actually brings. I was like, we have to do this movie.
And you were right to say it.
And I was right. I love this movie. It's so good.
Totally. I'm so glad we did this, and I'm so glad that I watched it, and I need to give it another watch where I don't fall asleep in the middle of it. But I still cried, and so it still hit me, baby. So I'm giving it a 5 as well.
Gorgeous. 5
Gorgina.
across the board.
Yeah, something
Yay,
so heartfelt and
ParaNorman.
wholesome to end Pride Month after all the debauched shit you might have gotten into in the last 30 days.
This is a
Let
cleansing.
this purify you.
This is a queer cleansing.
A queer cleanse before we move into Patriotism Week.
And that's what you missed on Glee.
Here we go. Our final Glee mention. Now who's gonna say the F slur? Don't say it. Let.
But okay, next week it's 4th of July, but don't worry, we're not becoming patriots. We are doing a movie that takes place on the 3rd of July, canonically. So it works. It's great. It's got a little bit of a spicy political message though at the end, but I'll leave that to you for later.
And technically we're doing Zombie 2 weeks.
Oh yeah, Zombie 2 weeks.
You would never expect a podcast that is known. I don't know if we're known for not liking zombie movies, but I know that none of us like zombie movies that much, except for Train to Busan. That shit slaps.
I like zombie stuff. I just don't like when they're super fast. They were good in Train to Busan, but that's not the zombies that I feel comfortable going up against, you know.
Sydney doesn't like zombie movies, and I don't usually like zombie movies. But now, after doing this episode we just did with Raiders of the Lost Pod, where I had to watch like 5 zombie movies, we've learned to appreciate them.
You've
So
found
we
your
are
entry
doing
point.
a very, very fun one next week. I don't know what year it came out in. I'm gonna Google it, but it's Return of the Living Dead. Can it tell me? 1985. There we go. I said it slow so I could Google
Huzzah!
it.
I could tell that's what was happening, but I didn't want to. I wanted you to say it if you wanted to say it. I didn't want to jump on you.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's such a fun one. It is a classic Silly Billy 80s movie.
Cool.
It's Silly Billy, gruesome woosome. I have a crush on Spider. Just want to say that now.
Okay.
Anybody
go
named
into
You
it
did
Spider.
mention that on
knowing
Raiders
We
of
have
the
a
Lost
crush.
podcast.
Oh
I
yeah,
think.
well you'll see why and you'll understand. It's super fun. I just watched it for the first time. Have y'all seen it?
No.
I've seen it.
It's fun, right,
Wow.
Sid?
It's a good time.
It's a good time.
I can't
'Cause
wait
it's
then.
silly
Monica
Billy.
was like, "This is a zombie movie that you like," and I was like, "Yes, this is the zombie movie
Yeah,
that
I
I
was like,
like."
there's no way you wouldn't like this one. It's got insert things here that I won't say because
Oh,
it's spoilers.
Yeah.
It's got cool 80s outfits and shenanigans. There you go.
Love that.
Wow.
Nobody loves good 80s shenanigans more than me.
That's true. That's her whole thing.
Well, I can't wait to see
So
it then
join-
because I love to have fun.
Yeah, so join us next week. And why not, in the meantime, give us a wow, you did a whole great lineup of Pride movies, 5-star review on Apple Podcasts.
Little compliment for the spooky girls. Little
Yeah,
compliment.
say great
Literally
job
keep
being
saying
extra
"atta
gay
girls."
this month. Yeah,
Keep saying "atta
more
girls."
atta girls.
I need that in my life.
Atta girls,
More
atta
atta
gays. I'll
girls.
take either.
Oh, what was I gonna say? Even
These gays are trying to
Atta-
kill me.
add a queer, I guess is how you would say it if you
Yeah.
were doing the queer thing.
Also, we are starting to do polls on all of our episodes, and so we're going to do a poll for this one. What should it be? Do 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 do. This is when we think.
We'll figure it out.
Is
Uh,
mm,
is Courtney bisexual?
yes or no? That could be
Yes
it.
or no?
That's
She's
it.
a cheerleader.
That's
She
the
could have
question.
a journey in her future.
Do you
Circle
support
back to the start of
queer
Pride.
youths? Yes or no? I'm not going to put that because it's on
Right.
yes, no. I'd have to delete the
Right.
entire internet. Okay, it's going to be the Courtney one. Is Courtney bi? Is she
Is
questioning?
Courtney bi? Weigh
Weigh in Spotify on the poll.
in.
And why not follow us on social media? We're at spooky_Tuesday on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram, and YouTube. Please subscribe to our YouTube. We have goals on YouTube, and please help us meet them. That's the most
There's-
important one to subscribe to right now.
And at this point, there's going to be a video on there where you can even watch things happening on the screen, which is crazy. Crazy.
Ooh.
Most of our episodes, you just see our episode art. This episode, our collab with Raiders of the Last Podcast, you can watch our faces the whole time.
And then also we are on Facebook and Tumblr at Spooky Tuesday Pod, and on Letterboxd at Spooky Tuesday. And as I always say every day of my life, thank you for listening. We'll see you next Tuesday. Queers.
Bye, spookies.
Are they gonna try to eat our brains?
I think you'll be safe.
Oh, thank God.
Spooky Tuesday was created by Monica Height, Sydney Thompson, and Chelsea Duff, and edited by Sydney Thompson. Our gorgeously spooky tunes are all thanks to Tamara Simons, who you can follow on Instagram at Captain Tamara, and our podcast art is by Mary Murphy, who you can find on Instagram at the_moon_OMG.